Benjamin Allen is sleeping away through the middle of a lonely night.
Welcome to the Bill Moran Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM and streaming live at WVLP.org or on your TuneIn app. We are broadcasting live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill Moran Show is underwritten by Recovery Works of Maryville, Indiana. And now, here is your host, Bill Moran.
Welcome to the Bill Moran Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM. Our show discusses people, news, and events in the Chicago area. We also hold timely panel discussions, as we will today, on such topics as substance abuse, domestic violence, sexual aggression, and school security. We have brought together elected officials, citizens, and general public to discuss issues that are impacting our community. Our purpose is to discuss solutions that would support our vibrant community and its communal and economic growth. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the Bill Moran Show this morning. Today we are going to have our last in a two-part series panel discussion on school security. And so we're going to get rolling right away. First of all, I'd like to do some introductions here. First of all, we do have an added member to our panel. It just is added recently, and she has been on WVLP, 3 times? And if you could speak a little bit careful. Okay, and your name is Ollie, and your last name's pronounced? Grcich. And we'll be discussing her a little bit about what her role was at Valparaiso High School in just a bit. Then with us is one of I'd like to call him my co-host, Dave Reynolds, the sheriff for Porter County. Welcome to the show again, Dave. And then we have on the phone Senator Randall Head, phoning in from Southern Indiana. Randy, you there with us?
Sure am. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we'll be back with you in just a bit. Then we have the director of Porter County Educational Services and also the principal of the Porter County Careers and Technical Center, John Groth, who's also been on our show before. Welcome to the show again, John.
Thanks for inviting me, Bill.
And even though you have a Packers emblem on,
You're going to get a lot more listeners if you keep mentioning that.
And then we have Todd Willis, who seems to be, you're a Viking. Oh, my God. Did you guys coordinate this?
That's why we've got the sheriff sitting in between us.
Exactly.
Okay, we have Todd Willis from the Porter Starke Services. And then we have Stephenson. I got it right this time. Yes. She's with the Porter County Substance Abuse Council. Then, of course, my other co-host, Megan Johnson, who's with Recovery Connection and PACT. And we'll be hearing.
Hello. How are you?
And just to give you guys an idea, we tried to do a Facebook Live, but something was going wrong. So we are going to be recording this on video, and uploading it on our YouTube channel and then sharing it from there. So let's get started. What we thought we would do, and now that we've invited Ollie on again, and is this third time? Third?
Third time. Second time with the walkout, one time with Blues
Yeah,
Project.
you know, they're going to offer you a radio spot here if you keep this up.
Oh my gosh, I'd be so excited.
Ollie, why don't you share with us, if you will, because I think it would be appropriate to start these conversations about school safety, what your role, and you're a senior at Valparaiso High School, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about your role with the recent student walkout and how you got involved in that?
So it all kind of started on social media, as that is kind of how everything gets started nowadays. After I saw that the shooting took place, and then I saw the Parkland students were becoming quite vocal about their distaste for how everything was handled, I just kind of started researching a whole bunch, because when I see some sort of injustice in the world and I can't actually do anything about it right away, my first kind of inclination is to start researching and to start informing. So I was on Twitter and on Instagram and just constantly posting about everything that was happening, and just statistics on gun violence and things like that. And I was actually approached by Candace Shaw, who is a pretty big activist in Valpo, and she was talking about how she really wanted students in VHS to be a part of this. And I was all aboard too, because I really felt strongly about everything that the Parkland students were saying. And so from there, I kind of got catapulted into this whole movement, ended up being kind of the leader of it within the high school, and also kind of like in the Porter County area. I've been kind of pulling together a whole bunch of different people. And through that, now I'm in charge of the March for Our Lives March on Saturday. So me and a VU freshman, Gabe Conway, we've been constantly working on creating the march for Saturday. The walkout, that was this past Wednesday. I was in charge of that, and I got a bunch of students from the high school just kind of to create a whole kind of little committee, and through that we kind of just expanded on it and got a whole bunch of people involved, which was really awesome. And so I guess it just kind of started from inspiration from the Parkland students, and then through social media it just kind of went from there.
That's great. And you felt compelled.
Oh, yeah.
Just the emotions and you know, and what is, and we're going to be getting to this later, how was your feeling being a student in a large school of Valparaiso, seeing all this rise in violence in schools?
Well, I'll admit, when I first heard about the shooting in Parkland, I was just kind of numb to it, because I've grown up in the era where mass shootings within schools is very common. We hear about one every year pretty much. So I was just kind of like, oh gosh, another shooting. I knew it was awful, but I don't think it impacted me the way that how shootings would have impacted years ago. And I think that I've been raised in this generation where it's just so common. But I didn't actually start really feeling super passionate about it until I saw the other students calling out, because it just kind of clicked in my brain that this wasn't right, that this was happening all the time. It's kind of when you get, when you just see something so often as you grow up, it just kind of doesn't register with you that it's bad. You know it's bad, but it doesn't hit you how bad it actually is. And when I kind of came to the realization that this was really, really bad, that it was happening, and that there's a reason, there's a way that we can stop it and stuff, that's when it kind of hit me that we could actually do something about it.
And there's some things that may reassure you that we'll be discussing that you may have not heard of. Some security initiatives that have been started years ago, but you know, leading up to this, and that's what our hopes are today. But you know, hats off to you. Your courage is
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Then what we'd like to do next is have Senator Head talk to us about the upcoming special session that the governor has called, and discuss a little bit about the school safety bill that they will be discussing. Randy?
Sure. Well, we're going to be discussing an additional $5 million for the School Safety Resource Fund. I think that's definitely called for, given the current circumstances. Like you alluded to earlier, Indiana's been ahead of the game, ahead of most other states, I think, because for years we've had money in this fund, and that's a matching grant for schools that they can use for whatever safety purposes they desire. It can be to pay a school resource officer, similar to the one that was in Maryland yesterday. It can be to harden doors or for any additional security purposes. We also are, I think, one of the only states that requires a school safety specialist to be on the staff of every school system. Our Department of Education does training and certifies those people. We're also going to be looking at audits for all of the school safety plans. And in addition to that, we have our red flag law that's been on the books for several years now, where if someone has a mental illness and they're not taking medications, or if someone is making threats to somebody, we can have officers go and take weapons from those people, and then they have to have due process. Our Constitution requires it, and I think that's just common sense, where they have a chance to come to the court and argue that those weapons were taken from them mistakenly, and to have those returned. If law enforcement was about that, we used that law 46 times last year to remove guns from people who may have been violent, and I think we're only one of a handful of states that has that law on the books. So we've done an awful lot, but I think, like your previous guest stated, more needs to be done. We need to invest in more infrastructure to treat mental illness among youth and adults in our society and in schools, and I'm very hopeful that we move in that direction as well.
All right, and again, that special session is planned for mid-May?
Yes.
All right.
Around the 14th to the 16th of May.
Okay. And so for all you listening out there, if you will, write your state rep or state senator and let them know what your feelings are about this topic. And I think it's overwhelming. We have to do something. It's just a matter of how and when it happens and so on. So thank you much. And Randy, if you'll hold on, because we'd like for you to hear the conversation that we're going to have. Okay. And we'll go from there. And we may feel free to chime in as well. Although people here, I asked to raise your hand. Dave, you've been here before. I kind of run it like a judge, don't I? So raise your hand if you want to speak. But we're going to go in order that we discussed so that everyone's voice is heard. So first of all, actually, we'll get back to you again, Dave and John. John Groth from a school administrator's perspective, and Dave Reynolds from a law enforcement perspective. Let's start with you, John, first. Can you talk about, over the past 20-some years, what you've witnessed in changes, in threats to schools and the school safety measures that have been put in place?
Well, sure. I've had a longer career than this than some people. I guess I'm about 30 years as an administrator, and 30 years ago our schools are pretty open. Today they're not, unfortunately, which is a shame. We've got to keep doors locked. We've got to check every visitor coming into the school. We've got other security measures that have been put in place, from video cameras to alarm systems to school resource officers, to badge systems, to everybody wearing an ID card. So those are the major changes. I was invited into an elementary school a week ago to read to some kindergarten kids. It's just kind of a community service thing. I had to go through and you have to do the same thing in my school, but I had to go through the principal's office where first of all I'd get buzzed into the building. I got into the principal's office, was scrutinized by the clerical staff there, who then had the principal come out and check me out, even though I was in a tie.
Did you have that Packers Landelier?
I had my Packers identification with me. I mean, I think I looked pretty safe, but I'm yet happy they did all that. That's what they should do. I finally got buzzed into the school out of the principal's office and had my visitor ID card, and went walking down the hallway to the classroom I was going to, and I wasn't a third of the way down the class hallway, and a teacher came out in the hall and said, "What are you doing here?" Because she couldn't see my visitor's badges on the other side of me. I mean, there was a real good security there, I thought, keeping people out. If you come into my school, I've got a smaller school than some. I've got about 600 students, and we know all of our students, so we keep a real close eye on visitors too. And of course, visitors have to be scrutinized as they come into our building. I still think, and the Parkland thing scares the heck out of me. I spend every minute of my life and my working life thinking about the safety of my students and my staff and my school. At the same time, my rational mind tells me we're in a pretty safe community. I've got a very safe school. I've got people who would stop anybody from coming in, and we do stop people. So I'm optimistic on that side, but I still know the Parklands, the Columbines, those are communities that look like ours. It isn't the community's fault. It's just one nut out there who wants to hurt people. That person's really, really hard to stop. Working with the sheriff, who can't be a better sheriff in the country, we've got a pretty sophisticated system of plans for our safety plans. I mean, if you don't know about this, you need to know about something called School Guard, and Dave can talk more about it. Every teacher in my school has a button on their phone that's an instantaneous app. They hit it. We can get any police officer in the community there. If I get on my alarm system at school, it won't be a minute before city police are in my building. The School Guard brings them from all over the county into my building. I mean, so we've got that. Dave's also started our one county, one protocol system, where when I say something like school lockout or school lockdown to a colleague or to a police officer, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, where in the past we might have called it something different. Now we're all at least using the same terminology. So those are good things. Unfortunately, we shouldn't be about arming our schools, keeping our schools locked down all the time. And we should be about educating kids. We should be about having enough supplies for teachers. We should be about teachers being paid enough to do what they're doing. And at the same time, here in Valparaiso, every school if it doesn't have a secure entrance, we're spending several $1 million putting a secure entrance on every school.
And
I
John,
guess we've got to do that. But
yeah. For those who are not familiar with the Porter County Career and Technical Center actually is housed in a Valparaiso building.
Yes.
And so, and I know being a past employee that was responsible for all those security devices, they have a uniformity plan, entry systems and so on. We won't discuss those in detail, but there has been a lot of forethought and now. Dave, if you want to share with us from a law enforcement perspective, how do you see from a law enforcement official how things have changed within the schools in your county?
Well, I've been around just almost as long or longer than John. I remember when all the schools were open, and when I was police chief and our detective in Portage, and obviously we've come a long way from then, where now the schools are locked. But I have a couple comments, and I think the viewers, or the listeners, but also to Senator Head. I think Porter County is ahead of the curve as far as school safety is concerned. We've done a lot, as John has just alluded to. We have a one county, one protocol. We have a poster up in every school. So it's just not fire information drills. It's actually what to do in case of an active assailant, and all of the other things that are important for the safety and security of all the students and employees. And that is posted in every school. But one of the things, Senator Head, you need to understand, we spoke to the governor a couple weeks ago, a few of our sheriffs, and we're trying to get back into him. And we'd like to talk to you too, because if you, what you said is exactly right. I think Indiana's kind of ahead of the curve, but we all need to go do a lot more. Securing the schools is important, but the last two shootings occurred in the morning and occurred in the afternoon. So the doors are open. So regardless of how secure you make your doors, you cannot stop somebody from coming in. It could happen. What our focus is, and what I want you really to think about, and I'll send you this, is that we have the things that need to be reduced is reporting time, dispatch time, consequently then your response time. Now, reporting time is this. If somebody goes into a school and starts shooting, I'm telling you right now, not everybody's just going to sit there and dial 911. It's not going to happen. You're going to be running. You're going to be screaming. You got a lot of things going on, and those are seconds. And we're trying to get that information from Parkland, and it could be a lot longer than people think. Now, the dispatch, so when you do send it to somebody does dial 911 and someone from the 911 center answers it, they're going to say 911, what's your emergency, da 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 da, and then somebody's going to be screaming in the phone, hey, there's somebody shooting at the school, da 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 da, and that's going to take seconds to get that, discern that information with that and cut through the emotion to get the facts that are needed to dispatch now to the responding officers. And once you dispatch it, I don't care where you're at in the country, people are going to be coming. All right, I think everybody understands that. But where you're at in Cass County, you got some counties down there with not a lot of policemen. Okay, Jasper County, for example, south of here, 2 guys are working. What John is talking about, what needs to be addressed is an alert system. So what we have in Porter County and have it throughout the whole state. Because if you activate an alert system, on-duty and off-duty policemen, state, local, federal, you're not going to only have your officers in Casciato County or Marshall County or Cass County. You're going to have all the state troopers that are on this Hero 911. So Google Hero 911 and Google School Guard. And I'm not promoting, this is what we have. It doesn't necessarily have to be that system. But we need an alert system, and we're trying to get into the governor again before this session with you. If that would be awesome. But what we need to do is have that happen. I've got Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, Dave Grossman, who's a school expert. He's going to be available to come in too. And I think that everything that you talked about, the school specialist, things that we're going throughout the state, those are all really good things. But you have 92 counties, and everybody does things and approaches things differently. So we really need the guidance of the legislator and the senators and the governor to help the 92 counties and help us too, because what's happening right now, I have 75 schools. I have 7 school systems, and the superintendents are calling me now. We want more policemen in our schools. Well, who's going to pay for all that? And that's the things I know that you're addressing. But we're all on the same page. But you need to understand, we've been dealing with this like yourself for not just since these last couple shootings. We've been dealing with this since I came back for the last 3 years. But this is my 11th year as sheriff. So we know we're doing well. But there's so much more we can do, but we definitely need we need the support of the senators and the reps down in Indy. And I think we'll get it, but you know how it is. How do you get what I just said to everyone so they understand how to best use that $5 million?
Yeah, and one thing
I think that the $5 billion is going to pass no problem. I'd be surprised if anybody voted against it. I think the best way to communicate is what you're doing, is talking to people. I love working with Senator. I know that he's all ears on this one, too. My background is as a deputy prosecutor, so I've never been a police officer. I've never been on the street, but I've dealt with police officers and did that for 14 years. And so ways to lessen response time that you're talking about is something that I'm very in tune with and that I agree with wholeheartedly. I think you'll find senators, reps, and regardless of party, you're going to find people wanting to hear from you about ways we can improve our system and make the school safer, and we want to do those things.
I agree, and I think that I think you need to understand, which I know you do. We're not that big a county, Porter County, but we're about the 7th largest county. So there's a lot of small counties out there, and they have school systems. And they have school systems. So, and they don't have the finances to support what we're talking about. But what we need, the first thing that we need to do is that we need to focus on the alert system. We have to notify the police that there's a shooting. Now, what just happened in Maryland, I mean, we all know the end game here is to have a uniformed police officer in every school. at least every high school and maybe middle school. I mean, we can all argue that it's unfortunate that we've come to that stage. Well, we've come to that stage, and that's not even a debate. Now, that's an expense, but the locking of the doors, I always get frustrated with that because these doors are locked, okay? And we're working out a system now, Senator, that if we show up and there's a shooting in a school, how's the police going to get in? The doors are locked. Now, they have these Knox boxes for firemen, but I have 75 schools. So, I mean, are you asking our policemen to have 75 keys in their car? Well, what we've done now, it took us a couple days. Every school has a fob system, some type of fob system. We've worked it out where our fob in the county can work on every school. So now we can get in. You follow me? So we can use the fob, our fob. My one fob can get in all these schools. And then the other thing is that all these schools have CCTV cameras. They all do. But who watches them? I don't think anybody watches them. Now, if you have a shooting in Parkland,
we need to get it so dispatch can watch them, right? So they can get the information in real time.
Exactly. And we're working that out right now. Now, there's a little bit of expense to that, but we have all the school systems in our county, in Porter County, agreeing that if there's an emergency, all of these, there's a software program that we can put all of these cameras through so someone's watching the cameras live. And then dispatch out that information to the responding officers. So those are things that I'd like to really talk to you about.
Dave will hold up there because we do have to do a station break here just briefly, and we'll be right back with you.
You are listening to The Bill Moran Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM and streaming live at WVLP.org or on your TuneIn app. We are broadcasting live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill Moran Show is underwritten by Recovery Works of Maryville, Indiana. If you or a loved one are struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, please call us at 866-535-4673. Now, back to your host, Bill Moran.
Hey, welcome back. And I do want to remind everyone here, the intent behind this panel discussion is really to bring out a lot what has been done in Porter County. And I want to remind everyone, and you may be asking specifically in Valparaiso, we've had a lot of thoughts with security. And the reason that is, if a lot of you remember back to 2004, we had an absolutely awful incident with having to do with a person that brought machetes into the school. And now, given that this didn't have anything to do with guns, but it opened up a whole conversation back then about security. So we started writing grants to get the original entry systems and expand our camera systems. And but a lot of school districts didn't have that. And, you know, I just from a natural, from a personal reaction, unless you're exposed to something like that, you may not have that forethought. But now we realize with all these school shootings, it can happen to any school district in the United States, and it possibly can. And again, I just want to call everyone's mind that, you know, we're doing a lot in Porter County, and Dave, our hats off to you for leading that charge. And I think it was shortly after I left Valpo Schools when I heard about the app that you made sure each school had, that a teacher can press and notify of something happening in the buildings. But there's a lot of counties. You know, I don't know if Jasper has that. I don't. They do. Oh, they do. Great. And so with that, we're going to move on. We'll get back to you, Dave, discuss more about what you're talking about with regards to the one county, one protocol, which is how we make sure that we're all on the same page. So the next thing that we want to get to is what happens in the building. You know, we have all these trainings and so on. And I'm going to call on John, Groth, and Ollie to speak with us from an administrator's perspective and a student's perspective. How often are staff and students required to go through an emergency exercise?
We're required to do fire alarms every month. We're required to do safety drills. Every school has a different approach to it. My school is a vocational center, and I think it's very important to have safety drills, but it's important to also teach safety in the curriculum. So when we talk about a drill, a safety drill for a lockout or a lockdown, we also talk about it as if you're at a restaurant and this happens. I mean, right, they're with us right now. They're going to graduate in 3 months. I want them to think about what happens if they're in a restaurant and they see a robbery going on. What happens if they're cashing their check at the bank and it's going on? You need to do the same thought process as a school. If we do a drill and we send kids out in the parking lot, we're all kind of like sheep. The Parkland thing scares the heck out of us. I think that recently we had a drill at the high school, and the kids were all funneled into the field house, and I think it frightened the students quite a bit. My students were really nervous about that because they lose all control. We talk to our kids a lot about taking control of the situation, and one of the part of our protocol is run, fight, and hide. Think about the fight thing. You're in a classroom with 30 teenagers. You got to be a tough hombre to come in and handle, unless they all cower in a corner. But think about what you're going to do. What if you're at that restaurant and you see this guy come in and start robbing the manager? You either think about whether you want to be the hero, jump up and stop it. You might be able to, or you want to be the guy who knows when he walked in that there's an exit out through the kitchen, they can get out that way. So that's what we're trying to do.
All right, Ollie, just give us a student's perspective. How often do you remember going through some of these exercises?
I mostly just remember fire drills. We get those a lot, but I don't think we've had a lockdown drill in a while, or if we did, I wasn't at the school when it happened. It's something that is it's talked about a lot, about what we should do. I know that every single one of my teachers has told us where we should go if there's an active shooter or just a lockdown within the school. But we do one maybe once a grading period, I think, which is good, but I think we only do them for that's only 4 classes, and I have 7 classes a day, so I don't really know exactly where I'm supposed to go for every single one, but they don't really talk about what we should do if there's a shooter in the building. It's mostly just kind of like sit there and hide and don't be seen and don't make a noise. There's really nothing more that they tell us.
Right. And the next question I had to do with an active shooter, and obviously you've answered that question. John, do you go over that with your staff or students at all?
Yes, and in our situation, safety is the first item on our agenda at every faculty meeting, which we hold once a month. And then we have the lockdown, lockout drills, at least on a bi-monthly process.
Good. And now we're going to...
We also show something that's really good. I wish Ollie would see this and other students. Every student in the county should see the video that the sheriff produced for the One County, One Protocol, which talks about what to do in a lockdown, lockout, and basically it instructs you, whether you're in gym class or art class, how you should perform or what are some good ideas to do it. There's not a solution to every case that this is the door you go out, but if you are going out that door, make sure your eyes are open and you're looking around, you know what to do and where to find the police officers and how to react when you do see the police officers. That video is supposed to be shown in every school to every student in our county. Now, if we're behind in some places, we got to catch up. That's a good learning tool.
And actually, what I'm going to do is allow Dave to segue into that and go into our next question. Is Dave, can you talk to us about the Porter County Safe School Commission and what developed out of that, which is the one county, one protocol concept?
And I think even from the center's perspective, if you can go to YouTube and just put in Porter County, One Protocol video, you'll see what John's talking about. It was a video done to encompass a lot of the things that we talked about. From a student perspective, it's hard for law enforcement right now to take that responsibility to get to every student. And sometimes you need to watch it more than once. But so I'm not saying it's the school systems have dropped the ball, but at least we have the video. And if you see the video, you'll see what law enforcement's why we did the video too, is for their safety and protection, but also so they know what's going to be expected of the police when they show up. Almost everything in that video was done in Parkland and was done in Maryland yesterday or 2 days ago. The exact same thing. You have a lockdown, and you're locked down until the police show up. So we go through all those steps, and we talk about that you may have to run, if you see somebody, but you may have to go in and into a secured room and lock the door. We talk about that, and we also talk about, hey, if the guy comes in, you don't want to stand there and just get, shot. Things that, maybe it's hard for a lot of people to see and witness, but we need to talk about it, and we need to understand. And for every school system to get all the kids, especially the high school kids. The high school kids need to know we're empowering them so they make the decisions. Because if they're relying on somebody to get on an intercom and say, we have an active shooter in the hallway A, it's not going to happen. It goes by probably gunshots, and it goes by that they are going to have to make the decision. It's the same premise that we do on our drug presentations. You have to make the decisions of saying no, and then you have to make the decisions where to go. Like you said, I don't know where I'm going in every classroom. Well, that's your choice. You have to decide when I go in a classroom, if something happened today, how am I getting out of here, or how are we going to lock the door? And that's no disrespect to anybody, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. And this is all under the umbrella of the Safe School Commission. So who's involved in the Safe School Commission is not only law enforcement, but administrators, superintendents, of course your SROs, but everyone. We have mental health that represents us, Porter Starke. Everyone that shows up all has an input. And I would like to give a plug before we get done. We are, one of the things that we've talked about is the cause of this. Mental health was brought up, absolutely crucial, and I think this in this next session they're going to address, and they have to address mental health, because mental health is directly related to a lot of these issues. I mean, if you go in and shoot up schools and shoot up things, obviously that's not normal. Okay, so that needs to be addressed. How they're going to get an answer to that, I don't exactly know. But one of the things that they can talk about is how to keep all the students safe. And I think, I know if I was a state senator, you have a lot on your plate in a couple weeks. But you need to know that everyone is looking for that guidance and help, because we all need it.
Thank you, Dave, and that's a very good explanation of how that came to be. And you touched upon something that naturally segues in what we're going to be talking about next, and that is adolescent mental health, because that is an issue. We look at each one of these shooters within the most recent.
It isn't just adolescent either, okay? And any school violence isn't definitely an adolescent.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. But a lot of the shooters were people that were bullied or had bad home conditions.
There was a guy in Las Vegas who shot
Exactly.
112 or something.
Right.
That was an adult. Adults usually are even better armed than the adolescents.
Right.
So we got great kids. Let's not point our fingers at them as being the perpetrators.
Oh no, that's not the.
The one in Parkland was also a graduate. He was out of high school.
Right, out of high school, but there was mental health issues. Right. But it does boil up from what was happening, their mental health when they were in school, and that's why we have some other folks to address some of those issues here. But this is something that agree, John, spans across adults and adolescents, and it can happen at school. And some of the things that, in fact, that's why some of the people are here to discuss this. What can be done in the school to keep students safe? From counselors, teachers interacting with students and spotting students that are having difficulty. So with that, I wanted to call on you, John, Todd, and Stephanie and Megan also to chime in here. Can you talk about the anti-bullying programs and the effect that they've had, and some of the things that maybe that you're witnessing as far as substance abuse, the kids that are in school and things of that nature? And Todd, we'll start with you first.
Sure. Well, I think the school's come a long way in terms of just identifying bullying as an issue. But I don't, we're kind of looking for a magic pill on this, right? What is the cause of this? Although, look, we all need to learn how to deal with equipping our kids to deal with bullying, but bullying's been around from the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. Guns have been around for the beginning of time. People with guns have been around since the beginning of time. But you know what hasn't been around since the beginning of time is hate, indifference to human life, the lack of people with purpose. And so, absolutely, we need to equip our kids to deal with, kids can be mean. But, we're even finding it in terms of some of the stuff that's coming out around Columbine. The message the media was really pushing was this was an issue of bullying, and it really wasn't. We're seeing more information about some of the things that were going through the killer's minds in terms of their journaling that they did. And so bullying is important, anti-bullying is important, but it's a small piece of the bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And with that, and I want to talk about some of the reactions to some stress that adolescents and adults go through when they experience stress, whether it be bullying, being a bad home situation. And Stephanie and Megan, if you want to talk about that and what you're seeing as far as your spots and what's happening out there in our community.
Part of our program is we go into schools and community centers and we ask questions called focus groups. So our questions are about substance abuse and what substance kids are using or whoever's using, or when we go into older centers, we educate them on prescription drugs and taking them out of the house. But maybe we could go into the schools and do some questions on focus groups on bullying and other items. We also see video game addiction and some issues there with the substance abuse. So there's all kinds of different issues and angles.
I think the mental health component that the senator threw out and our sheriff threw out is vital. How are we equipping people, not just kids, but people to deal with the stresses and traumas that are present in our society today in a proactive way? It's kind of like holding up the dam before it's about ready to break. The resources just are not there, and I haven't even mentioned addiction as an issue. We talk about that often on the radio program, but it's all tied together. The breakdown of family, addiction issues, mental health issues, and these are tough things. These aren't, programs we can run into a school and just immediately kind of take care of. But we need to start actively looking at those. It is about money sometimes and freeing up those finances to do that. I want to, one of the things that has kind of been a negative effect, I think, from some of the media coverage on these school shootings is one, and this isn't you, Bill, but the media really assuming and putting out there that these are happening all the time. These school shootings are not happening all the time. They are happening, and one is too many. The other thing that's happening is you're seeing some issues with response time, police involvement, and I want to say officially that I've been a part of these crisis drills that our police, the sheriff and others are regularly drilling, you won't have some of those issues that are happening that the media kind of takes off on as showing a lot of incompetence in that area. You will not have that in this county because of the prep work that isn't just started because we've heard about this in the media. This has happened, Sheriff mentioned, this has been happening for years. And when I get brought in as a mental health person to we're drilling for this stuff to happen now. And it isn't about, sometimes more police officers. It's about shortening that response time. That's one of the things that in the Columbine issue, there was communication, 911 was flooded. And so that's one thing that through the preparation that's happening in this county that I don't foresee happening. Sorry to jump back in there.
No, that's fine. No, fine. And Megan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and this kind of goes back to what Todd was just talking about, and I'm no mental health expert by any means, but I do have experience in the addiction field, and I work with people who are in recovery, and I just think, okay, so we have addiction, and we have school shootings, and we have violence, and we have all of these things, but I just see those as sort of these symptoms. They are the surface level kind of signs of something deeper going on. And so when we talk about mental health, it is about how are we coping or helping people to cope with the stress and the struggles of life. In kids, that's important to teach our kids how to cope and how to deal with hard things, but as well as adults. I mean, I work with people who have never learned how to cope, so they're in addiction for 10 plus years because they still don't know how to cope. They still don't know how to deal with their negative emotions, and it is so true that we kind of need to look beneath, like, okay, we can stop school shootings, we can try and stop addiction, but what is causing these things and what's kind of under the surface? So I just think that's so important.
And then one more thing, and I'll be quiet. I'm sorry, Bill. Is I think that
Ollie here.
I think that also, there's a great opportunity coming up that the sheriff's program has kind of brought the principal from Columbine in, along with Bill Chalmers, who's a leading authority on teen violence. And I would it's on April 30th. Look for that on social media and go out to that because you're going to learn some things about this issue. All right, Bill, I'll be quiet.
Todd, I'm holding you in contempt of the radio station. Sheriff, please. You raise your hand, please.
Yes, sir.
Ollie.
I just kind of want to make sure that it's known that only 22%, according to a study done by Columbia College of Physicians and Surgeons and Mid-Hudson Forensic Psychiatric Hospital, only 22% of homicides, including gun violence, are done by people with mental illness. Not only am I an advocate for gun reform, but I'm also an advocate for ending the stigma around mental illness because personally, I'm someone who has to take medicine every single day because I have depression and anxiety. And I just want to make sure that although it is very important to talk about mental illness and about coping mechanisms, to not label if you have mental illness that you are more susceptible of shooting up your school. I think that's something that really needs to be reiterated because for so long we felt the stigma around being having mental illness. I mean, if you look into the psychiatric hospitals that were used before there was a total reform and how that was done, it was awful and it was deplorable. And I think that's something we're taking a step backwards if we want to label all mass shooters as someone with mental illness. A lot of the mass shooters, it's a power struggle, what they're doing. It's not mental illness. It's because they want to feel powerful. And I've read a lot of accounts of people with mass shooting because I've taken 2 college courses already with psychology. And so I've had access to all this research. And a lot of it, they just wanted to feel the power of being able to take someone's life. And I just want to make sure that it's known that not everybody who has a mental illness is going to be a major threat to everyone. And I just think that's something that is getting kind of glossed over throughout this whole movement. And during the walkout, I made sure to tell everybody this isn't just a mental illness problem. This is a gun problem. And that's something that people kind of want to find a reason for exactly why so many mass shootings have happened in school. And there's not one reason, but putting it all on mental illness is not the way to go about it, because we've already felt the stigma for so long, and to just kind of have this all happen again and then be like, okay, it's the people with anxiety, it's the people with depression who are doing it. It's not. I mean, I have anxiety and depression. I go to therapy almost every other week, and I'm standing up for it. I'm not gonna shoot up the school or anything like that. I'm against it, and I just think that's something that really needs to be talked about too, that it's not just us.
Oh, you bring up a very good point. I'm glad you jumped in there when you did, because one of the things that we're hoping to do with this discussion is to bring out how complex this issue is. We are so polarized right now in this discussion. People want to blame it on guns. People want to blame it on, and not the fact that, yeah, they are a dangerous method right now, but also blaming on people with mental health. But before we take action, I guess there should, as much research as we do in other topics, don't you all agree that there should be more research done on this to find out why this is happening, why people are acting this way? And that's one of the things of discussion. And yep, Ollie.
And that's kind of something that.
Thanks for raising your hand, by the way.
With all the walkouts, it's something that we have been very vocal about, is what we want. And one of those things is to fund government research on school shooters and mass shooters, because we don't know exactly why they're doing that, and that's something that we need to know, because to stop a problem you need to go to the root of the cause of the problem, and that's something that we've been struggling for. And so even us students are realizing that, and that's what we're calling for action.
All right, Dave?
One thing, not to disagree with anything I've heard, but to get on with, it was mentioned, our program that we're having April 30th at Ivy Tech at 5:30, the foremost expert on school bullying and video violence, and he equates it to school violence. The one thing we know for a fact is this: there's not been a shooting so far that we know of that has a marked unit in front of their school. Almost every shooter has not a father at home. I agree, not every person with mental illness shoots up schools, but every person that shoots up schools has mental illness problems. And that needs to be addressed. I don't want to get into the debate whether you have guns or no guns, but I know one thing. We could take all the guns away, make them all illegal. Somebody's going to find somebody who wants to shoot up a school is going to find that gun. What we need to do is figure out what's really causing this. But see, I'm more of a let somebody else do the research. I'm more of my position right now, and I'll just say it one more time. We need to do things now, not put it under debate, not have a committee to discuss it and research it, because what is that going to give you? 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months down the road, then you're going to come up with the stuff that you already have right now. What we need to do is address the issue now, and then whatever the state legislators do in May, I hope has immediate impact on the safety and security of the schools, and not just from a research perspective, because we've researched things my whole law enforcement career, and that's almost like, in a way, it's an out. Well, let's discuss it. Well, we don't need to discuss things. We need to get things. We need to make pass legislation that has immediate impact on our schools, and I think that's what they're going to do, because we know it's not if it's going to happen in Indiana. Unfortunately, it's when it's going to happen.
And with
our students like Ollie and the students at Parkland deserve what Dave said, something to happen.
Right.
Something effective to happen today, not studied.
we're dealing with live, so you didn't raise your hand, John. But okay, what we are going to do now, actually, this is because we've got just a couple of minutes left. What I'd like to do is go around the room, and for all of you to leave a message with the parents, students that happen to be listening, and this is going to be up on our YouTube channel. So, and you'll feel free to share as you see fit. What I'd like you to do, if there's a message that you can deliver to parents and students today, what would it be? Todd, we'll start with you.
Okay, a message to leave with parents. I would say pay attention to your children. what they're communicating about, their fears, their concerns, invest time in them, know their friends, and just go back to forming connections within the family. That's what I would say.
Dave?
I would like to echo that. I think parents need to be parents, but they need to know they know their kids better than anybody. And they need to know that if their kids are having a rough day, or if there's something out of the ordinary, they need to talk to their kids. And if it looks like they've actually crossed a line where it could be to the extent that someone's life is in danger, themselves or someone else, they need to let somebody know that.
John?
I shouldn't disagree with the sheriff, and I'm not, but not every kid has two parents, the model family at home. So it becomes the job of every teacher, every adult, every friend of kids in school to keep their eyes open. I thought the sheriff in Austin, even though the perpetrator is dead now, he said, still keep your eyes open for packages or stuff. Hey, don't. And after Parkland, we need to keep our eyes open and keep involved.
Stephanie?
We have a program that we use called Talk, They Hear You, and it's to the parents. If you Google that program, Talk, They Hear You. And it's about talking to your kids and feeling comfortable with your kids, and it gives details and ideas, and ours is about underage drinking and prescription drugs, but there's some really good things out there.
Megan?
Okay, mine's going to be like the most fuddy-duddy answer, but I really truly believe it deep down. I think that relationships are the most important thing, and I think that connectedness is the most important thing. I think that when we can set aside our differences and come together, when we can care about one another, whether it's in school, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your family, whatever, I think that that is the most important thing, and if we can all just kind of come together and care about one another, that maybe these issues could be solved. So.
Ollie?
Mine mostly kind of goes to students, but mostly just stay informed, know what's happening in the world, and kind of be on the lookout. But at the same time, don't feel like it's your fault if something does happen at the school. Because like how it happened at Parkland is they were telling the FBI and telling people that something was not right, and then it happened, and that's not always the case, but don't feel like if you don't reach out to somebody and that there's a shooting, that it's your fault, because that kind of puts victim blaming onto the line, and that's something that I really feel like is also starting to kind of be reiterated over and over again, is putting the blame on victims, and that's not the case. Their actions are not caused by yours. If you don't reach out to them, because also it can kind of seem very, what am I looking for? Like if you're reaching out to somebody who maybe doesn't talk a lot, it can seem kind of like they were trying to kind of get onto you if you're the one who doesn't talk. So be nice to people, but don't feel like if something happens, it's your fault. Also stay informed, register to vote, please, if you're able to, and contact your reps.
Amen. And Senator, you'll be the end of cleanup here, if you will.
Great. Well, all those answers are very inspiring, and I would add to them. I want people to understand that Indiana has already done a lot for school security, and that what we heard from the law enforcement officers today shows that we already are being proactive, and that we're going to do even more.
Thank you, and we do have to close out because I'm eating into my co-host show here, and we do have to close out. And Senator, let me leave you with this. I have an idea. That maybe before you all begin your session, I know a person in the room that I would recommend speak to the senators and reps before they vote. And I'll talk to you about that later. And if she agrees to do with it, I think it would be great. My recommendation, you take that and run with it the way you'd like, but my recommendation is you need to have a student talk to both the state senators and the reps, and and possibly law enforcement too. So with that, we do have to close out because our next show up is Recovery Radio. And I would like to thank our guests for participating and expressing their opinion and their input on this. And again, this will be available in recorded format on YouTube on The Bill Moran Show, and it will be throughout social media. And with that, we'll say goodbye and quickly transition to Recovery Radio.
Thank you.
Sheriff, is it true that by the year 2020, like Washington Township School, you walk in,
plague our nation. So today we have three special guests who I'm really happy to have on today. We have Don Pelk, Stephanie Stephenson, and Patty Lemke from the Porter County Substance Abuse Council. Hello.
Hello, Megan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So these ladies work hard. I go to their office a lot and see them working hard, so I actually know that. But you know, working towards the substance abuse issues in our community, and they're doing a lot, and it's a lot that probably a lot of people don't even know about. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, I think that the Substance Abuse Council it's a idea that's kind of up here, and people are like, what is that? What do you do? And people don't really actually know what you guys do. So, and it kind of trickles into the greater community. So I just want to get into that today and kind of talk more about what it is that the Substance Abuse Council exists for, what you guys do, and what you are kind of compelling the greater community to do as well. So let's jump into it. Why don't you guys tell me your job titles, and then a little bit about what you do and what you're responsible for. So let's start with Dawn.
Okay. My name is Dawn Helk. I am the Executive Director at the Substance Abuse Council. And I've been there probably 5 years. And what I basically do is oversee the grants, both the local coordinating council and also the drug-free community and the Partnership for Success grants. One of the main things I do also is I create partnerships in the community with agencies, and also I oversee the coalition, and part of that is building the coalition.
Okay.
We've gone from 110 to 145 members in the last few years, which is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's great.
And then also, those people will help us do the things that need to be done within all the grants. And also, I coordinate the membership efforts and, you know, a myriad of other things.
Sure, yeah.
So,
As with any job, there are a lot of
I
other.
can tell you a little bit about the local coordinating council.
So
if
yeah,
I'm not
let's wait
jumping.
on that. We'll
Okay.
get into that because I do want you to talk about that.
Okay.
But let's, Stephanie, why don't you talk about your job title and what you're responsible for?
Okay, I'm Stephanie Stephenson. I work under a federal grant called DFC, Drug-Free Communities. So we have 12 sectors, and I can get into that.
We'll
one,
get
okay.
into that later.
And
yeah.
we work out and go into the community, go into schools. We present different strategies, and we find out what is going on in the community and try to work in those aspects.
And that is specifically for or geared towards youth, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. And Patty?
I'm Patty. I run the Partners for Success grant. I'm the senior grant manager for that. A lot of mine it's a state grant, so we do a lot of programs inside the schools, and I handle all the reporting plus getting people throughout a coalition to help run these programs and get the programs out to everybody in Boulder County.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to get into all of that more in depth. But first, I just kind of want to talk about substance abuse councils in general. There is a substance abuse council in every county. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or there should be, I guess.
Yes,
okay.
there is.
Okay. So that's probably not widely known as well. What is the general purpose of a substance abuse council?
The general purpose is, well, the 92 counties, like you said, everyone has the local coordinating council, which is interchangeable with the word coalition. And what we do is we collect the money from countermeasure fees, which the auditor holds for us and then releases to us for offenders that were arrested for and convicted of substance abuse and impaired driving
Okay.
infractions. So the 92 counties it's only in Indiana too, which I think is fascinating. So what they do is each conviction will reap an amount of probably like $200. Well, that all goes back into the kitty, and then the coalition or the LCC is responsible for redistributing it, the total amount. So it goes to prevention, treatment, and recovery, and law enforcement.
Okay.
So the money we collect, we give back out into the community for what it was collected for
Yeah.
impaired and
Yeah.
DUIs.
That's so interesting and
It's
probably
amazing.
yeah, something that I didn't know before my participation in the council, but that fees, it's fees that offenders pay. Okay. So people who have been convicted of is it impaired
OWIs
driving.
or-
Okay. Okay. So those fees then go back into a pot of money that is going towards substance abuse efforts. That's really awesome.
So so if it's like $200, I think last I heard it was. And the amazing part is last year we collected $164,000, which we were able to redistribute to agencies and
Wow.
therefore trickle down to programs and strategies. So
Wow.
that's a lot of arrests
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
to work this. And every
Wow.
community is different. Some counties might only have $50,000. So it just varies.
Okay. So talk more about then the local coordinating council. What does that look like? What is that? What is the purpose of the coalition?
Well, the purpose of the coalition is to reduce substance abuse,
Okay.
and the different ways we do it is we focus mainly, I guess, on prevention, treatment, recovery. So what we do is the members of the coalition are agencies such as Family Youth Service Bureau, Recovery Connection. So we don't, the council doesn't, but we have a grant committee that decides what agencies will receive this money depending on different criteria. And then we basically approve these programs and we follow it through the end of the grant cycle to make sure that all these different needs are touched on.
Okay.
We do have a comprehensive community plan.
Yeah,
I don't know if
talk
you
a
want to
little
get
bit
in
about
on
that. Yeah.
up to that yet, but so it's data collected from different sources like juvenile probation, of course, law enforcement, number of arrests, the coroner, different statistics we have from
Indiana Youth Survey.
the Indiana Youth Survey, thank you, Patty, and then also the health department. So we gather all this information and then try to find out what are the leading problems in the county, and then the comprehensive plan acts as a roadmap to how the county is going to address these programs. Problem statement number 1, for example, is abuse of prescription drugs, opioids, heroin, and other illicit drugs are the first problem statement that we have. And then we have the data to back it up. Heroin deaths over the years in Porter County, there were 31 prescription overdoses in 2016. And then another problem statement is alcohol abuse. And there was 1,170 alcohol-related arrests in 2016. So we gather all this data and then we put it together. Problem statement number 3 is marijuana abuse. So
you have prescription drugs, alcohol, and marijuana.
right.
Those are the things we concentrate on.
Okay. And so you bring together a committee to work specifically on this comprehensive community plan.
Yes.
And this is based on research, correct?
Research, current research from the previous year.
Okay.
This is updated every 3 years, but every year it's revised. So it's always current. An interesting thing to note about the LCC is it addresses adult and youth.
Okay.
Adult and youth alcohol or any drugs, whereas the DFC, the Drug-Free Communities, and the PFS, Partners for Success, is youth-based middle school and high school.
Okay.
You know, the way that I've always thought about it, and you guys, and why I am actively participating in your group is because, like having a council, you guys are the mechanism to get everybody, the right people together to get a unified response on what's happening and how we address the substance issues in our community. So many communities are like running all over the place on like, I'll do this, and this person, I'll do this. And like having an active council like we have in Porter County gets all of those people together, and we move forward as a unit to attack the substance abuse problem. And I think that, you guys do a great job at, one, getting the right players to the table, and having good dialogue around that, and exploring what's out there in the evidence. And so that's what I see your primary role being is you guys get the people to the table and we get a unified response. We're not all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of going off of that, and that's kind of why I'm asking you more about the local coordinating council and the grant program and the members of this coalition. The coalition meets monthly, and it is members of our community, professionals, parents, law enforcement, all these people coming together once a month to kind of talk about these issues and kind of show and discuss what we're doing to address those issues, correct?
That's correct.
And so this is going off of what Todd was just saying, but why are coalitions important? Why is that so important? Because you got a lot of treatment agencies, you got people, working and doing their own thing, and making differences. But so why come to this monthly meeting? Why be a part of this coalition?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The collaboration and communication, so everyone can hear what other people, other agencies are doing, and then seeing, and it does open your eyes. Oh, that's a great idea, or oh, you are doing that, and and then we can see and communicate to each other around what's going on.
But also make sure that people aren't doing the same thing and using all these funds for the same thing. We can try to target things in different sides. So it gives everybody an option. You can also say something like, oh, well, we tried this program that you're thinking about trying, and it didn't work well for us. There's the stats to back it up. So maybe you should try going this route. It's just a way to always communicate together and learn from each other.
Right. And so, like, we had an experience like that where there were some recommendations, or we ought to go in this direction for the community. And so you charged one of your subcommittees, the treatment and recovery that Megan and I co-chair, to just like, okay, look into this. You guys are the experts in this area. Go look into this and see if this is a good idea. And so we did the legwork, got some research behind it, and we're like, you know what? We're not recommending we pursue that at this time, and here's why. And so that's a perfect example of how it should work. Is you guys can give us the blessing, if you will, to do some research and report back to you. And so sometimes it's like, hey, this is what everybody's doing, and then sometimes it's like, we probably don't want to go in that direction as a community, and we need that.
I think the importance of coalitions are very underappreciated, and as soon as I started at PACT, I knew that this was something that I wanted to be involved in, because I see the importance of bringing people together from different areas of life, people with different skills, people with different knowledge, and using those things to make a greater difference in the community than maybe just one person or one smaller group of people can make. There's a presentation at one of the coalition meetings of, I forget his name, maybe you remember, but was it Alfred?
Oh, yeah.
From another coalition,
Yeah,
yeah.
from the county coalition.
Okay, yeah, and he gave an awesome presentation on what a coalition is, and I have the PowerPoint right here because I just think that he spelled it out so well. Maybe we can have him on here at some point, but this is a coalition, a diverse group of people with deep connections to the local community, serves as a catalyst for the goal of change in our community, a group that influences population groups' behavior, works to create a healthy community. It's a partnership of the many sectors of the community, so we'll go into the 12 sectors in a little bit, but gather together collaboratively to solve problems. Coalitions connect with their community members on a deeper level, use multiple strategies across different sectors of the community, continually build, use collaborative problem solving, community development, all of that. That is huge, and there are not many places in a community where you can go to get that or find that. And I think, if anything, let's continue to spread the word about the importance of coalitions, about the importance of coming together with people that are different than you, that are working on different things than you, and coming together to kind of create a larger movement. That's me on my soapbox, but.
Very good.
Are there people that you would want to reach out to, not directly names, of course, but like organizations that you feel in general would be good additions to this coalition? Like, I wonder about the faith community, how can we get them more involved in being a part of your coalition? I mean, do you guys have any ideas about that?
We have a new faith director, sector leader, and I believe, and he's involved in the community already in different programs, and so now we've kind of pulled him in, and we're going to get him involved in the coalition, and he's got some ideas and connections and programs, so hopefully that will be moving forward.
Yeah. Are there any other? Oh, go ahead, Bill.
I just have one question here, and I hope this is the appropriate time to ask it. So if I have an organization that is non-for-profit, that is doing work for the greater good, how do they become involved in the council? How often do you meet? And how do they get involved, like Megan and Todd have?
Well, the coalition meets once a month, and the next meeting will be on April 28th. Open to the community. Anybody who wants to participate is welcome.
Let's take back.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I can't see. April 12th is the next coalition meeting, and anybody can attend. It's at 7:30 a.m. at the Community Foundation. And as far as becoming a member, we like people to become a member so they're easy to contact, and then we have them on a list, and then they could, if they want to have volunteering opportunities, we can call them and all that. But being a member, we'd welcome everyone and anyone to come and help us, because there's something to do for everyone.
And we have interesting meetings with different people coming in and speaking about their strong point and what they know about.
Yeah. What are members responsible for? So if someone came and said, I want to help, what would they be kind of asked
Well,
to do?
first we'd give them an orientation of what we're about and what the expectations are and what they expect to get out of their experience, and then we could let them know what we offer. Patty's got a speakers bureau, the Overdose Lifeline Speakers Bureau, that she facilitates, so that is something that's become very popular, right?
Yeah, and we go into a lot of the schools. I think we've been into every school this year with some type of presentation or focus group. A big presentation that we've been working on is the Overdose Lifeline presentation. The kids really seem to enjoy it. It's got a video in there where the kids in the video all are either dealing with substance abuse, or a mom, dad, aunt, uncle, family member has had a substance abuse problem, actually specifically opioid prescription pain pill problem. And it's kids their age in high school that actually are in Indiana that did this video. And the kids really seem, when they see that video and they see those kids, they really seem to, it opens them up more. They start asking questions. So people in our Speakers Bureau are the ones that we train to go out and do that presentation.
Okay. Okay. That's really cool.
And there's a lot of them that aren't necessarily from agencies.
Yes. There's some people that just walked in and on their own. They're a parent, or they're a teacher, or it's not necessarily somebody that is from Family Service Bureau. It can be anybody in the community that wants to get involved and help fighting the problem that we have.
Okay. That's great. And so that kind of covers the local coordinating council. You have, just as a summary, because for me, that helps when thinking about you guys, to kind of block it off. But so you have the local coordinating council, you have a comprehensive community plan to which organizations will apply for grants based on the plan. Money is dispersed, and then you have a monthly coalition meeting, and that's kind of all entailed in the LCC, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and take a break really quick, and then we'll come back and talk more with the ladies from the Substance Abuse Council. We're here with Dawn Pelk, Stephanie Stephenson, and Patty Lemke. We will be right back. Hey everybody, this is Megan Johnston. You're listening to Recovery Radio. I am here with my co-hosts, plural today, Bill Moran and Todd Willis. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Hello.
And we're here with Dawn Pelk, Stephanie Stephenson, and Patty Lemke, all from the Porter County Substance Abuse Council, and we are talking about the Substance Abuse Council in general. We've talked a little bit about the importance of coalitions in general, which I could go on about for for some time, but I want to get on to some other components of the Substance Abuse Council. So Stephanie, we've already kind of touched on the 12 sectors and all of that, and that is a part of the Substance Abuse Council, but go ahead and talk a little bit about your grant that you are in charge of and what all that entails.
Okay, thank you. It is a drug-free communities grant. It deals with the youth in the community, so middle school and high school. There are 12 sectors. If you have a moment, they are government, health, schools, youth, youth serving organization, business, media, law enforcement, religious, civic, treatment and recovery, and parent. So really what they're saying is it does take a village. So the government is saying it takes everybody working together. As the sheriff would say, we can't arrest everyone out of this problem. It is not just law enforcement's problem. It is everybody's problem and everybody working together. So we have 12 sector leaders, and we meet monthly, and we discuss things, programs that are going on. Part of the sector leader's responsibility is to disseminate information to either physically or through social media. So any program that we have on, that we sponsor, we'd like everybody to help us get the word out. Let's see, we go into schools, we do focus groups, and the school sector leader helps us set that up.
Okay.
Also volunteers, when we do get volunteers, we take them into schools with us, because we find that a lot of times when we break into smaller groups, the kids will talk to us more openly, tell us more things. Law enforcement, we work with a little bit, and Patty does this too, Sticker Shock. It's a program. Religious, let's see, it's part of the government, what they're doing, and one of the things we really want to do is get everybody on board for the end of the year school meds in Porter County, that everybody redistributes them the same way. The last day of school, one school may be doing it one way and another way. It all needs to be done the same way.
Okay. Okay. That's
Oh,
great.
keep
So
going.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Keep going.
So we also do our youth group. We have a youth group who is planning the second annual Porter County Youth Fest, PCYF.
Okay.
And that is going to be held September 22nd.
Okay.
And it is at the National Armory in
Okay.
Valpo, the National Guard Armory.
Okay. And what's the purpose of that event?
That is, one, there are 9 county high schools. We've got the 3 big ones and then 6 smaller ones.
Okay.
And it's, let's get everybody together for a positive reason. We have high school kids who are in a band, and they play with their group.
Awesome.
So it's really a neat get-together where it's going to be from 5 to 10. We have the kids play at that 15, 20 minutes, and then we kind of rearrange things for the next group. But in the interim, we have some speakers.
Awesome.
And it's not in your face, substance abuse, misuse, but it's just a positive evening. We have a couple colleges with tables. We have
Food.
we have food trucks.
Games,
Yes,
yeah.
food trucks. We had last year, and we'd like to invite them again. The Couts Lions Club, and just to do ring toss.
Awesome.
We had the National Guard had blow ups.
Okay. Yeah. Like bounce houses. or
Yeah,
whatever.
bouncy. Had jousting, yeah.
Okay.
Basketball, and there was a couple other blow-ups. The weather didn't cooperate last year, but
Yeah.
it may this year.
Awesome.
But just some activities, kids to get together for a
Okay.
positive reason,
Cool.
and you can have fun with. We had a lot of raffles.
And it's a safe,
Awesome.
drug-free environment, which, a lot of times when kids want to go to concerts, parents are like, I don't know, you never know what the concert's going to be like. This is a place where they can support their local, students and their friends that are in bands, and it also gives them a safe place to listen to that music where there are no drugs, there are no alcohol. It's just a safe, fun environment.
That's awesome. That's great. And I was there at last
Yes.
year's event, and it was awesome. The weather wasn't great, but
Yeah.
We can only hope
this year.
for
Right.
more this
This
year.
year,
Yeah,
so-
yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
yes.
Hopefully.
So, are there any other kind of initiatives or efforts that you have going on within the DFC?
We work, we would do Red Ribbon, and Red Ribbon entails a couple different things in October. We have a poster presentation, so we ask all the elementary, middle, and high school students if they would like to participate and work with the poster along with the theme, and then Poco Muse, Porter County Museum. We display it there for several weeks, and then we have a reception one night.
Oh, cool.
And it's really a neat thing to see the kids come in
Okay.
and display that. We also have a Red Ribbon scholarship for high school seniors, and that has been distributed to each high school in Porter County. The due date is April 6th, and there is 2 $500 scholarships that will give to the
Awesome.
winners entering
Okay.
college.
Okay.
We go in and do focus groups, learn about what the kids have going on. We have PSAs, public service announcements, so you can Google it. Social hosts lose the most is one of them. I wish you would have told me. So these are things that the kids have kind of written, the last one. And then we go out into the community, like I'm speaking at Banta next month, and we're going to talk about the safety of prescription drugs, getting them out of the house.
Awesome.
And then we'll show a little video and tell them what Porter County substance abuse is all about. So we've been to
Awesome.
Rotary, Kiwanis. We like to let everyone know who we are if you'd
Awesome.
like to
Yeah.
have us visit.
Okay, so you got a lot going on within the DFC, and I think, one thing that I want to kind of reiterate is that these 12 sectors, and you named them all off: government, law enforcement, health, treatment, all of these things. But it goes back to this kind of coalition idea and this collaborative idea. It's more organized, I think, and it makes it so that, okay, we have every aspect of the community in check or kind of covered, and it's not just saying like, hey, you come over, you over there, come over here, you come over here. It's okay. We're focusing on every single sector that exists. People that are working in different areas, they see different things, they know different things. Let's bring all of them together to kind
Yes.
of create change.
Yeah,
So.
around the table and
Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah,
make change,
that's
positive
great.
change.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to say about the DFC?
If you'd like to have us come out to speak in any either school or group or club,
Okay.
please give us a call.
Awesome. Okay. So you got the LCC, the local coordinating council, with the coalition, the grant, the comprehensive community plan, and you have drug-free communities, which is focused on youth, and you have a grant for that as well. Who have you given grants to? Or it's a grant for the coalition or for the council, correct? So
Correct.
it's not a
Yes.
grant that you're giving out.
Right,
It's,
I
yes.
work under a grant.
Okay,
And with that grant,
gotcha.
we get 125,000.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
we redistribute that.
For 10 years.
For 10
Okay,
years.
okay.
Yeah.
So these strategies are for that grant.
Right.
Okay. And so, Patty, why don't you talk about it's Partners for Success, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so my grant is a state grant, whereas the LCC and Stephanie's DFC are federal grants. They come from the federal government. With the state grants, the federal government said, okay, Indiana, you have a problem, we're gonna grant you money. And then we had to apply through the state of Indiana to receive that money.
Okay.
So the reporting's a little different, and then there's specifics that we have to target that are a problem mainly in Indiana. So this grant covers opioids, it covers underage drinking, and those are the main two things that we're supposed to concentrate on with my grant. My grant also concentrates on young adults and students. So
Okay.
normally we work middle school and we can go all the way up to the college age. Most of our programs are high school, middle school based. We are working on getting some things going with the colleges, though. We've been working on building
Cool.
some relationships with VU and Ivy Tech this year, so hopefully that can continue to grow and we can build more of those programs. But a lot of the programs and strategies we have going on right now are Media Ready, Positive Tickets, Overdose Lifeline, Take Back Day, Inspect, and Sticker Shock. So those are a lot of the programs I use on a daily basis. Our Media Ready program is a media literacy program that kind of takes trying to deal with substance abuse and take it from a different angle. It's it just started, I think, this week or last week at Union Township Middle School, and they're doing it in all their advisor classes. So 6th through 8th grade will be getting this program. Takes 20 minutes a day, 1 day a week, and it teaches them how to look at advertisements and dissect it down to see how they're targeted in these things. And then by the end of it, they actually learn how to create a counter ad. So it teaches them lots of normal skills that students need to know, and then it also helps teach them the substance abuse and how even when you know you're at home watching YouTube, you're getting targeted by alcohol ads that aren't supposed to be targeting you at your age. So that's a really good program that we have. We're also getting ready to start that at TJ, and we've done a couple in the community. We also want to start it outside of the school. So we're looking for any kids 6th through 8th grade that are interested in learning about this program. We can take, I think we have up to 12 guitars because we pair it with a free guitar lesson. So if you come out and it's, 20, 25 minutes of my lesson, then there's a group 35-minute guitar lesson with Chad Clifford. So it's a really good program. The kids, the guitars are there. The kids can come a little early and practice before their lesson if they'd like. So if anybody knows any middle schoolers that are interested in learning a guitar and learning a little about media literacy, give us a call, 462-0946, and we can get you signed up for that program. Another program that my grant pays for is the Positive Ticket program. We have this in 6 or 7 of the high schools in Porter County, and it's where a guidance counselor or the school resource officer, if they see a student doing something good, something special, somebody trips and you help them pick up their books, something little like that, all the way up to something big like they started their own club and they're really working hard or doing a PSA, things like that. When you see them doing that, it gives them the positive recognition. So the police officer or the guidance counselor, whoever sees the student do this, would take time, talk to them, and write them out a little ticket. That ticket will say, thank you for helping the other student pick up their books when they tripped and fell. And then at the end of the month, everybody who was given a ticket will be put into a raffle, and they get a free gift card to a local. We have Dairy Queen gift cards right now. We've had movie tickets in the past. So we try to work through donations, and also my grant will pay. We buy different gift cards throughout the community too. So that's a really good way to help create that positive relationship between police and schools with students. I already talked briefly about the Overdose Lifeline program and what that is. We go into the schools and we do that. We just reached 419 kids, I want to say, at Chesterton Middle School in 8th grade with that program last month. Take Back Day is on April 28th. So if you have any medication at home that you're not using, that you didn't finish, whether it be antibiotics, opioids, anything, you can take it to any of the local police departments or the sheriff's department and drop it off, and on the 28th it actually all gets transported to get disposed of properly. Instead of, we don't obviously want people flushing it down the toilet,
that's great.
We want to make sure it's disposed of the correct way.
So when is Drug Take Back Day?
April 28th. So it's coming up in about a month.
And how can people how do people
You just take it to if you take that medication to your local police department, then you can go ahead and there's drop boxes that you can just put it in. No questions asked, just take it, drop it off, and leave. And then on the 28th, we'll go ahead, we do it twice a year in April and in October. They collect from all those drop boxes and take them downstate to get disposed of correctly. And you can drop it off today, tomorrow, as long as it's dropped off by the 28th.
Gotcha. I remember talking with someone, it might have, I don't remember who it was, but about after that day when a semi comes and collects all these prescription medications and they're driving down the road and they have to have like armed forces around them. I thought that was interesting.
I can imagine that. Question, so you sponsor that program with the drop-off boxes at the police stations and okay, cool. All right. Didn't know that.
As a matter of fact, those drop boxes were purchased by grant money that we received through the countermeasure fees. Years ago. I'm not like maybe 10 years ago. And the only police department that doesn't have a drop box, just so everybody knows, is Couts. Because they don't have the 24/7 monitoring. But other than that, everybody has it.
Awesome.
Since 2010, we collected 16,000 pounds of prescription drugs, and we're disposed of them. We take them to Indianapolis to a place called Covanta, and then I believe they burn them.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's interesting.
So you guys have a, this is a rather unique opportunity to kind of have you three here today, and you have a kind of an overall bird's eye view of the community and the substance abuse problem. You've been clear. You're not experts in treatment or prevention, but you do have a passion for your community, and you have a passion for bringing people together and trying to help this issue. And so, from a bird's eye view, I'm wondering. We can all agree that there's a lot that Porter County is doing and that it's doing well. I think everybody in this room, and I think your listeners, Bill, would agree. There's some good stuff happening. But I'm wondering from your perspective, if there's something that you guys see as an overall bird's eye view, something that our community needs to improve upon with this issue. What's something from your guys' perspective, doing what you do and collaborating with the people you collaborate with, that you can identify to say, like, man, we really, as a community, need to think about this? What's that?
I think we still need to work on the stigma. I was in Chesterton last night they had a program, Chesterton High School.
Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heroin. Great program, really great. And we had a table set up and some information from us about our different programs. And one woman said to me, one mother who had a daughter in high school, said, "Oh, I have a good kid." Yes, I've got 3 good kids, but that doesn't mean that they may not make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So she did not take my information. She said, and I was like, "Oh, good kid, I believe you, but let's educate them further." So I think still the stigma for
Did you
me.
take a drug test from
No.
Did anybody?
Gone. All the drug tests were gone,
that's
and
good.
more were wanting them. So that was
Oh,
good.
okay, that was good.
Yes, but I have a member of my family who has been dealing with a heroin issue on and off for 15 years. He was a good person. He is still a good person.
Yeah, that's good.
So how do
Yes.
we overcome this stigma?
Well, I think a lot of it's educating parents. Your kid can be a good kid. That doesn't mean they're not going to make the wrong choice. And that's
Yes.
what it is. It's a choice. They may go, "Oh, well, all my friends are, it's just one joint. It's going to be okay." And the next thing you know, it's turning into prescription pills and heroin and cocaine. Your kid doesn't have to be a bad kid. Your kid can be a straight A student when they make that one wrong choice. That doesn't make them a bad person. It's educating parents, I think, is a big thing. Just getting them all the information, getting them to start talking to their kids at a very young age. Years ago, I interned here before I worked here, and I was put in charge of going to all the PTA meetings at the elementary, middle, high schools, and trying to get the parents to come to our program, Blunt Truth About Marijuana, back then. And I had so many parents look at me and say, "Well, my kid's too young. They're not going to start doing that in 5th or 6th grade." You have to show them the stats and make them realize that this is a real problem. And your kid can be a great kid and be exposed and make that wrong choice. Everybody makes mistakes. This mistake will just change their life. So it's just, I really think that that's a huge part of it, is making sure parents have all the information they need to talk to their kids.
So, go ahead, Bill.
I've raised my hand.
I didn't see that, Bill, but now there it is.
We had a thing during the last show. So one of the things that I was going to speak to is the stigma problem. And what, it is, as the person that just left here, Dave Reynolds, he says just about every day, it is the #1 problem in Porter County. But yet, do you all feel that specifically with funding, that doesn't balance out? I mean, we're trying to deal with the #1 problem, people dying, and speak to your about this affects everyone. Chuck Harris does a great job with the kids in the county, and when he goes in and talks to a health class, or not health class because I was told there's, but talks to a class, whatever it is, he says no one exempt from this class, whether you're upper middle class, whether you're lower, no, and it's true. I mean, statistics have proven that. But getting back to this, What do you feel as the council that sometimes you're challenged because of that stigma and getting resources and funding from whether it be the county council or private donations or and I still don't have a clear picture how you're funded yet, so I'll learn that eventually. So so is that something you're finding that that because of the stigma that there aren't the resources that are out there?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
So that it's
I don't
not.
think that has any. No, that
It doesn't affecting
No.
at least your funding and making sure the programs are moving
No.
forward. Okay, good.
Most of
Good,
our
that's good to
funding
hear.
comes through grants. So like for her, the LCC,
Mhm.
that is through the countermeasure fees. So then that goes throughout the community, we give that back out. Then we also have Stephanie's grant and my grant, and those are federally and state funded. And that's where we get the rest of our money. So
Do you-
our funding comes from those 3 grants.
You don't receive any county funds at all, other than the fees that you would get from that
No.
you described before?
They're just countermeasure fees. They're not from the county. They're not from taxes. They're just from the people that were arrested and convicted for the drinking and driving or impaired driving.
So what I call an
infractions.
offsetting fee that from
Yes.
people that are
Yes.
actually doing that. So has there been any talk about creating a line item budget for the county council, the substance abuse council at
No.
all?
No. Mm-mm.
I will say, kind of going off what you were asking, though, Bill, I have experienced, I think, this, and I don't know if it's stigma or not, but you have funders who, they can fund anything they want. You know, they see a whole community. They don't just see one problem. And so there have been times where we have applied for grant funding, and, our funding is for adult people who are addicted, who are helping, who might have gone to jail, who might have a felony offense, who might, be whatever it is, older. And then the funding goes towards, programming for children in preschool or something like that. So it's like, I know what, our kind of focus is. I know what passion I have and what our goal is for the community, and that is very specific. It is for adult people who are addicted. But for a funder who kind of has the gamut of options to fund things, I have experienced that funding might not go, that might not be their first option.
Right, and what? Yeah, gosh, you're going to make me pull out my soapbox here. As Megan tell you, I'm extremely passionate about this topic. When I read about the statistics in Porter County, drug overdose deaths, we're second, I believe, in the state. We eclipse Lake County in per capita drug overdose. And there's a reason. It's a clear reason. Valparaiso is a economic mecca, but the downside of that is the money is here. And I know a number of law enforcement officials that will speak to this, and Dave Reynolds being one of them, we can't arrest our way out of it. And plus, there are crafty criminals who will find a way around it. But it still never amazes me that, when I look for line items, how much are we giving that? And, I know Dave is challenged because, there's no way of budgeting how many people are going to get addicted and how many people he's going to have to arrest for either possession or dealing drugs. But where's the additional money coming from? And Megan, you said it seems like there's a lot of resources out there, but when it comes to substance abuse,
I do just want to say that, like, every issue is important, right? It's not
Right.
like I'm sitting here saying, you need to only fund, addiction programs or treatment programs. That's not what I'm saying at all. Children are very important, and we should fund programming for children. I just want to make that clear.
And our last show, we just came up with another issue. Now we're looking at, the state, school security. It's huge. But this whole topic blends in with that, and that's what I was trying to get at in the last radio show, that, it's all connected. People experience pressure. They experience bad things in life. What happens? And so...
I think,
Did you raise your hand, Todd?
yes, I did, Bill. Can you see that? I do think, Megan, off of your point, you can always get money for kids. And those issues are vitally important. But as related back to the stigma, when we start talking about adults with addiction issues, you hear terms like addict or junkie. And those kind of words, although even sometimes the treatment and recovery group uses those words, make these people throwaways. And it's hard to get money and passion for people that a constant message is being sent that they're throwaways, and they're not throwaways. These are our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our siblings. And so I think to support what you're saying with that, it is about stigma. And back to, our original question, which was an area of our community that you really feel like we need to do some more work. It sounds like it's a challenge to get the parents, the right people, to acknowledge the problem and be okay with, hey, I want to get some information, and not be worried about judgment or people will start to think that my kid has problems with these, versus what actually the statistics show is that you're in the minority if you don't know someone or have experienced somebody with addiction. You are the minority if that's the case. The majority of people definitely have those issues. I have one more burning question that I'm just, again, of your bird's eye kind of view, as we talk about stigma, and that's a big issue. Every community has this ongoing task of learning to improve communication and our ability to work well together. I mean, any time you have a problem and you get people together, it's how to get those people to talk about the right things and work well together. I'm certain that Porter County is no different. Again, I fully acknowledge all the great things and the great people I work with. But nationally, we see this issue of siloing happening, where treatment providers don't want to talk to recovery people. Recovery people, no, we understand what we're doing. We're not going with those. And then when money's involved, people's feelings get hurt. And I would assume, because Porter County is no different than any other county nationally, that we have some of those issues. And so I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or ideas about ways that agencies, groups of people can come together and improve that ability to join with each other and work well together. I guess what I'm implicit in that question is I'm assuming that it may be an issue in Porter County like it is nationally, of getting the right people together. Do you have any ideas of ways that you can help people work better together and improve that ability to join to solve that problem? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it goes back to where we started from, the coalition. I think coming to the coalition meetings and networking and meeting other people from different disciplines and crossing over from the prevention and treatment and recovery. Personally, I think we're moving forward in a great direction. Everybody that comes to the meetings, they're very well versed in what they represent as far as prevention, treatment, or recovery, and they're actually working together. They're contacting each other outside of the meetings. They're meeting outside of the meetings, and I think they're doing great things.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
And we do have a group of, or not a group, but people as concerned citizens that come to the meeting. So you don't have to be in or have a job. You don't, you can come to our meeting as a concerned citizen.
And everybody in the county is welcome. So we would love to have to get a bigger meeting space. We'd love everybody to make it to our meetings. So
The last few meetings, there were no chairs.
exactly.
So, and that made us very happy.
Yeah.
It was a good problem to have, so.
And it's
So-
always the second Thursday.
Yeah, you're right, Thursday.
Second Thursday of every month at 7:30.
Okay.
Second Thursday.
So
all right.
that date for April is April 12th?
Yes, and we're having a DEA agent come to continue this discussion that Sheriff Reynolds started with the HORT, which is the Heroin Overdose Recovery Team. What they do is they treat the overdose scene as a crime scene, and they collect information from that scene to give them
Okay.
a clue of, the 5 W's and H and all that. So if you want to see this DEA agent come out and speak on HORT, he will be there April 12th, so that should be good.
Awesome. Yeah, we would love to have, I think I speak for everyone in this room, but we would love to have everyone there joining in this discussion, giving their input, giving their opinion to kind of further the efforts that are going on in our community surrounding substance abuse and addiction. So, yeah, go ahead.
Can I say one thing? At the meeting in May, which is, May 10th, we're going to have a coalition member. Her name is Tyria, and she is the counterpart to those who know Herb Stephenson. She's the female version of Herb, and she's in recovery, and she went through the whole entire addiction and retreatment and recovery road. She now also has a book out, and it's called Pure Gold Processed in the Fire. And she actually penned this book in the Porter County Jail.
Wow.
So it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. If anybody is interested, it's a different perspective. The female, because you'll get, there's the family, different family issues, the loss of the children, all that, STDs, rape, and all that. I mean, it's a very graphic book. I read it, but it really tells the story. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And we have to end now. I wish we could continue, but thank you so much.
Just do what I do and just run over.
Just keep going. Yeah, we can just sit here and keep going. So, yeah. Well, we've had Don Pelk, Stephanie Stephenson, and Patty Lemke from the Substance Abuse Council, from the Porter County Substance Abuse Council, I should say. Thank you so much for being on and kind of telling us. I feel like I know even more about the Substance Abuse Council now. So hopefully our listeners learned more as well. I hope to continue this conversation as well at some point. Thank you, Bill and Todd, for being here as well.
Sure, no problem.
Recovery Radio is underwritten by Lawn Pro Lawn Care and Pact Incorporated. We are really thankful for your support in allowing this to happen. Recovery Radio is a program of Pact Incorporated. My name is Megan Johnston. I'm your host. And on behalf of WVLP, Pact Incorporated, and our community, we would just like to thank you for listening. So have a great day, everyone.